Do you know what's consensual conversation or police social questioning? That's the hook. So now I have your attention. Then I'm going to give you 3 points because I boil it down real simple. Top 3 reasons why people get pulled over. Going 45 and a 35, super easy because you're coming from the highway and it just drops once you enter a town. Sir, do you know why I'm pulling you over? You were going 41 and a 35. Let me see all your shit. Spread those. Okay, so the second reason is trespass. Every acre, every millimeter of this country, and any country really, is owned by someone, whether an entity, corporation, or government. So that's why you really got to become a landowner. Strive to become one. Don't rent, because you could always be kicked off, basically. I mean, if you don't pay your taxes, that's an issue, but try to be a landowner. But anywhere you go, you're exposing yourself to being detained for criminal trespass, or if civil trespass, if the owner complains. So it's sketchy. You have to really be careful about where you walk. And like, that's no wonder people love hiking, because you could just be like, well, I mean, even that land is owned by the government, so you still have to be careful. But then the third reason why people get involved with the police is because other people, snitches, but that's a little intense of a word, but they'll call the police on them for welfare checks. And I think those are good when they're done with good intentions, but they really annoy me when people do that out of ill spite, and they're just trying to like get someone screwed over. That shit really pisses me off. I remember one time talking to someone just very casually, and then they called the police on me for a welfare check, and then all of a sudden I'm getting detained and frisked and stuff. So here's what I'm trying to get at with this video: consensual conversation. Police are going to ask you questions that you don't need to start engaging with, and that's where people go wrong. So you're dealing with the police on a certain matter, and anyone who's been in this situation knows things can escalate pretty intensely. If you, let's say, open your mouth the wrong way, you say some humor that's not taken funny, because here's the deal, like, once these are people, right? I'm not dehumanizing police. I'm saying once they're in uniform, they're putting on different lenses, and they're trying to do their job, which is to identify, locate, and, control, arrest, investigate any sort of potential issue or threat to society. So like, I remember one time saying something to, like, casually walking by the police, and I was like, did you find the fentanyl? That's a real problem. And then all of a sudden, within 2 seconds, they're up in my shit, basically thinking that, they're like, well, you brought up the topic of fentanyl, so now I have a reasonable suspicion that you might be, possession of drugs or selling drugs. So you see how quickly that escalated just from a humorous comment. So like, don't have humor. Don't say some shit, because you can get arrested. Like, okay, you were stopped for trespassing, but now because you opened in your mouth and said some stupid shit to them, now you're going to get disorderly conduct. Now you're going to get harassing a police officer. Now you're going to get impeding an officer from their duties. There are like a variety of charges you can get just from interacting with the police with a negative, humorous, or risky attitude, I guess you could say. So you have to be really careful. So when it comes to consensual conversation, they're going to ask you things like, how are you doing? Where are you from? What is your nationality? And they'll do it in a friendly sort of way, but by no means think this is like a friendly interaction. There's a power dynamic here. They're not here to be your friend. They're not here to be your therapist. They're not here to, they're here to like resolve an issue and potentially lock you up. And I know like there's nuance and complexity there, but the point is, people think they're being friendly and stuff, and like, oh, these are my friends, I'm gonna tell them about all this shit. And then now you're just inculpating, you're incriminating yourself with more and more shit. What could have been a simple matter, right? Of like, let's say you trespassed and you're like, okay, well, I want to leave now. And then you leave. Great. Nothing happened. But instead you opened your mouth, you said a bunch of shit, and now you just started an investigation. And they're going to go through all your shit, and like, look, I'm of the belief that if you commit crimes, like, it's going to catch up to you, and that you should not commit crimes. You shouldn't do drugs. You shouldn't drink and drive. You shouldn't assault people, or I should say, assault, like rape. What's funny is, like, even yelling at someone, calling them a dipshit, or, you know, calling them a piece of shit, or saying like you're a dumbass, like that could literally be taken as assault. So that's why, like, it's hard for men to not get that charge, because we just have, like, we want to just talk shit and just tell people off, like, rightfully so, and many times. But the thing is, like, you can't do that. You're gonna get in trouble. So don't talk, don't you know, be careful with trash talk, even though, like I said, some people really deserve that. But, like, I was asking this one person for directions, this person who's, like, just clearly, you know, you could see, like, who someone is. They lived here and all this stuff, and they were just like, they saw me as, like, someone who's not from around here, and they were just a dick about it. I really wanted to be like, you're a fucking 50-year-old man, you don't know shit, like, because I was asking them where if there's a track available, because they closed down, they locked up the track here. I'm like, what the hell? I just want to walk. So consensual conversation is not in your best interest. What you can say, police social questioning, what you can say is basically, I'd like to just not talk about my personal life and just focus on the matter here, and I'd like to leave if I can, if I'm not being detained. Those are the only words you should say. In, like, especially in a trespass or a welfare call check thing, like, the goal is you just have to leave. Like, most of the time you can't just stay there and hang out. People will call on you for, like, loitering, soliciting. There's, like, a whole bunch of shit that people can call on you just because they don't like you, just because they're I don't know, they're just, people can be very, very annoying, very, very annoying. And I'm talking about, like, people who have nothing else to do, people who are, like, hyper vigilant, or just honestly, like, people who mean bad. So there's nothing you can do. You just got to leave and shit. And you just got to request, like, if I'm not being detained, may I please leave? They have to have a reasonable suspicion that you're in a crime, or you're in furtherance of a crime. So that's kind of a high threshold and shit. So, but yeah, don't divulge your information, tell your love story, tell your therapy story. Like, all that stuff is just going to cause more problems, where the police are going to be like, well, now we have to really investigate what's going on here, because we have all these reasonable suspicions of potential issues. So, you know, don't drive 38 and a 35. It is what it is, but don't trespass, know where you're going, avoid people so you don't get the welfare check calls, which are just, it's basically people saying to their dogs, sick 'em. They're telling their dogs sick 'em, or they're telling their, like, a bee's, like, attack. And I just think that's, like, I just hate people who, like, aren't confrontational. Like, if you have an issue with me or anyone else, like, go up to them and ask them, like, are you okay? Instead of calling 911 and being like, hey, you guys need to check on this, like, sending your boys with the guns, because, again, it's a power dynamic, and it can escalate really dangerous. Like yesterday, this occurs to people all the time. Like, if you have a blade, let's say, on you, like a switchblade, I use it to cut fruit, right? I'm not a serial killer, but here's what's going on. If I'm giving attitude to the police and they frisk me and they see I have a switchblade, now all of a sudden I have a weapon and I'm threatening their lives, and they're gonna basically put me on the ground, put their knee on my neck, arrest me and shit. You see how quickly that escalated just because I had something in my pocket? And just because I, like, kind of opened my mouth sideways. So you really have to be careful with how you talk to police. Again, it's not a civil interaction. It's a power dynamic interaction where they have all the leverage and you got to shut the fuck up. And you just got to think with your brain, not with your, emotions. So it is what it is. If you have any questions, contact me. I love talking about this stuff. But yeah, I just want people to be safe and, like, don't cause more problems for yourself. So it is what it is, but good luck. All right.